there's so much going on. I think that parents are not, they're just taking it as, oh, they're just kidding. It's going to be okay. They really don't understand. This stuff is real. And your children are coming to school with bruises on their body. They can hide anything. They can hide anything. And you think about all the privacy that a lot of these kids have. You know, you got everything in your room, your own computer, your own phone. You got, and most of them have a door on their bedroom. So once you close that, you don't know what's going on.
Sun-kissed skin, hues of gold and black, bronze, brown, caramel to cream. My melanin determining the intricate details of my overall theme. Coils resilient and bold from roots of Afro-textured, natural and wavy mane. An expression of my uniquely individual style. And it's a black thing. Cocoa butter saturated, sealed with moisture, hydrating my melanin enriched skin. A gift from my ancestors, my family, my kin. Welcome to the Coils and Cocoa Butter Podcast. Welcome to the Coils and Cocoa Butter Podcast. I'm your host, Jazz, and today we're going to be talking about preventing teen dating violence. And today I'm being joined by Miss Melonee Ridgeway, the Prevention and Education Coordinator at the YWCA, my mom, Geneva, and my little sister, Asia. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. So, Miss Melonee, can you just tell us a little bit about the work that you do at the YWCA?
Yes. Well, I've been working at the YWCA for about 4 years now, and I am we actually have 4 high schools. So I'm at Riverview East, Woodward, Tab, and then I'll be at Schroeder Senior High next year as well. And I do a couple programs. I do a program on bullying. I do a safe date program, and I also do a program called Coaching Boys into Men. So in my safe date program, I really kind of talk about keeping young people safe when they're dating, because sometimes you don't know how to date. I mean, it's just as simple as that. When I was growing up, no one would just set us down. It was all trial and error, and we probably were in more unhealthy situations than healthy situations.
Right.
So I enjoy it because I don't sugarcoat anything. There's so much language out there that we need to know as parents so we can know what's going on. But I really want to challenge parents to meet the dates. Make it safe so that for the kids to know that they bring them home, that we can meet them. Because other than that, you don't know nothing about them.
But I think that that's important because, like you said, when y'all was growing up, but even when I was growing up, and it's like a taboo thing. Like, we start by maybe, if we do, talk to our kids about sex, but like, what about before that? Like, what about just dating? And like, is this a healthy situation? So I feel like, to me, it's so important for this podcast and the work that I do to break these generational things. Some of the struggles that I've had, like me and my mom have talked about, like how I just didn't talk to her. Like, I just talked to my friends, and not because of anything that she did, but I was just a private person. So I would get the information from my friends. So I think it's so good that my sister goes to her about a lot more stuff than I did. You know, so we breaking generational issues.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's intentional. Parents have to be, I'm glad you all invited me and Naya to be a part of this, because parents also have to be intentional in terms of the messages that they share with their kids, and also listening and kind of hearing what the teen has to say about different things, and also, be affirming and letting your kids know you love them and who they are, so that they can carry that into any relationships. Because relationships, even as adults, can test your self-esteem, So, right. So we want to make sure our kids, boys and girls, are prepared and that they know who they are going into any situation and how they should be treated.
A couple of things I do say to my, when I first meet a class, because first they don't even want me to be there. When I tell them I'm going to be there 8 weeks, they die. Like, oh my God. And then by the 8th week, they're begging for me to stay. But the three things that I say to start off is, you have to know that you're a whole person first. And that's something that parents can teach their children. You are a whole person. God made you that way. And so when someone comes into your life, you want that person to be able to compliment you, not complete you. And that's why we're always so disappointed. It's almost like an IV. Oh, he didn't call me yet.
Right.
And as soon as he's called, your whole mood is changed. You have to be a whole person and know yourself well enough. Again, that's not going to be able to make or break your day. The next thing that I say is you have to know yourself well enough to be able to step back and assess your situation.
Oh yeah.
You have the right to do that. Whatever's going on, and the moment that you feel that you deserve better, you do.
Yeah.
That moment, something's going wrong. Because why would those feelings come up otherwise if things are going well? And so I see those. Their brains are kind of working like, oh, okay, I've never heard this. This is not the kind of conversation that I'm really having at home. So maybe this class is going to help me in some way. And then we just break it all open. I don't sugarcoat anything. We talk about everything. So I agree with what you're saying. Parents are going to have to take it, because I think parents think once they start talking to their kids, they're giving them permission to do something.
Yeah. And
it has nothing to do with that. You're giving them information to make good decisions when they get in a situation, because our bodies are made where your stomach's gonna start turning. Your heart might be palpitating. It's either love or hate. And that's a reason. So we want to be able to know ourselves well enough to recognize, like, okay, hold up, homeboy. You're gonna be talking to me that way. Because I say to my classes, I tell girls and young men too. I'm gonna come to the young man, but I tell girls, the first time he calls you a bitch and you let him call you a bitch, he's gonna call you a bitch again. First time he shoves you and you let him shove you, he's gonna shove you again. And it's gonna be something else gonna continue. He may not even understand what he's doing, but you're allowing him to do some things. You have to draw some boundaries. And you have to know what they are. And those are conversations that you need to be having with older women who are on their game, that are showing you good examples, and that will tell you the truth. Because you can't follow everybody.
Right. Say that.
Everybody ain't gonna be your example.
Say that.
But that's a big premise to make sure that you are opening up and not being afraid to ask any questions. I am a survivor of domestic violence myself. I got married, and my husband did treat me very well, but I was glad that I was smart enough to get out of it. I didn't stay for 10 years. Oh, this is going to get better. I knew that it was not going to get any better. I knew. I was doing everything that I thought, and I didn't know how to be no wife. Right. But I know I wasn't doing nothing stupid enough for somebody to hit me and cuss me out and call me a cunt and a bitch and all that kind of stuff. So I was glad that I had some normacies in my life that I could say, this don't feel good. I don't want to come home. I don't want to get out of my car when I'm pulling up to the house I bought. This is crazy. So I'm so happy that I'm out of it. And I wish him the best, and I hope he got some help and whatever. But for as me and any of my nieces and nephews and any young woman that I come across, I'm bombarding them with information. The moment that I see them sad about something, I say, let's talk about that. And sometimes they don't want to, but it's okay. They at least know that, I pricked them enough to, like, when Miss Melonee did kind of open up that door, maybe I do need to go in there and talk to her. So that's something that I really, really strive for when I'm actually talking to them. And then when I want to get back to the boys, we have to teach them how to treat us. We have to teach them to respect us and want to respect us. Because I don't think they know. Look at the music they're listening to. These girls have to be sexual beings up front. I'm like, who knows how to be a sexual being? I still don't know how. I don't want to go take a class about being somebody. Like, I don't know how to be a sexual being. I mean, the music is deep. I mean, we had some where it was more subliminal. Kind of not anymore. Think about what that means. They telling you exactly what they're going to do to you. Fresh off the first beat. And
don't even have to know your name.
I think that's like why it's kind of tricky during the teenage years. I think it's hard, like you said, you can't follow everybody's example, even if it's an adult. And a lot of these things become generational because we didn't learn it, and we are looking for that love outside of ourselves. But I think it's even harder when you're a teenager because you got the hormones going. Everything just feels so intense. If you like somebody, you like them. And then, like you said, like, you have to know yourself. So the fact that you're in that process of even knowing yourself or who you are, what you like or what you don't like while you're trying to date. And I know now I'm a parent, so I'm gonna sound to Naya like but you know, like that's why like we tell y'all to wait a little bit longer before y'all date and get to know yourselves, because it is a process. And I'm in my 30s and I'm still figuring myself out, so it's hard to know like to define those things when you are a teenager, especially when you got that peer pressure, your friends doing stuff.
That's something else we talked about yesterday too, is choosing the right person for yourself. Whether it's a man or, you know, a girl or a boy, man or woman. This is all part of our conversation yesterday, is you make sure you're making the right choice and the character of who that person is, because you don't want to be with somebody who's going to treat you bad regardless of who they are.
You know, you're not going to bring somebody home reckless. You know, but you also don't want to sneak and be in a relationship where I really like them, but they're not somebody I want to bring home. But then everything about your relationship is so isolated that you don't have no protection. You do want somebody to know that she's loved at home. If you do anything, they're going to come for you.
That's right.
You know, and a lot of girls don't have protection. And that's why they keep secrets. They don't have protection. And then you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're going to have to end up calling your family.
Help her to understand what you mean when you say they don't have protection. They kind of, with the sneaking and not and isolating. And
because then you have a lot of secrets that you're keeping. You know, and sometimes you don't even know all the secrets that you're keeping, and then it becomes a lot. Then you become the greatest liar in the world, because that's what domestic violence does. You keep a lot of secrets because you're embarrassed. You're like, how in the hell did I get in this situation, or how did I choose this person? You know, then you start hiding things, and they're not at family functions. Well, where is so and so? Oh, well, he just had something to do. He'll be at the next
making
one.
excuses for
making
people.
excuses, and then you just again, you are the master liar. You know, and then when you finally tell the truth, your family is looking at you like, well, damn,
why didn't you tell me?
Why didn't you tell me? It's so embarrassing, and that's why you have to know when to stop it. The moment you start having those kind of feelings around a relationship, that's supposed to be embarrassed to be in a relationship. That's normal. That's a normal thing. But when those feelings start rearing their heads, that's when you know something is wrong. And so you have to know that, hey, my family is the best thing for me, and they're gonna love me more than any boy.
And that's the thing, you know, for you know, Naya, for Jazz, it doesn't make a difference. They're mine, and I'm gonna love them regardless of whatever choices they make, and I'm gonna fight for them too. You know.
So you gotta know your worth, because if you don't know your worth, they'll keep giving people so many discounts on you, and that's not cool.
Discount, let them get away with this.
You'll be so depleted. Let me read you guys a couple of things. So, you know, I've been doing like a little bit of research on low investment. You know, you have to figure out, are you the only one doing all the work? Because that person is low invested in you. It's like, if you're gonna have all the money every time we go out, cool, I ain't got to work. You're gonna pay for everything, cool, I ain't got to do this.
I just chill.
I'm just chill, let you do it all. And you look so independent, it's so cute, but you're the one that's just deflated. You know, you're empty, and you don't want anybody to be able to do that kind of stuff to you. So you got to make sure they're equal, and you got to start asking questions.
And don't be afraid to ask.
Don't be afraid to ask any questions. You know, sometimes ghosting is good. It's like, I didn't ghost this person. You know, they say it's a negative thing for the person who's ghosting and for the person who's being ghosted. You know, but sometimes it's a good thing to kind of just leave it alone, because you know you're really up here, and they have to be up here with you. You know, you don't have to dummy yourself down here to have a boyfriend. That's bull. I just don't believe in it.
But this qualifies for whether or not you in LGBTQ, or if you're in a heterosexual or homosexual relationship, you deserve to be valued in relationship. And it doesn't matter what you identify as or who you are with. These things are across the board. But I think as you get older, and that's why it's important to have these conversations. So that's why it's a process, and why it's important to have these dialogues, not just with your friendship groups, with older people, because even though we seem like we old and we don't know, we out of touch, we've been there, done that.
You were going to say something. You were in a toxic relationship, is that what you said? Tell me what you mean. What happened?
Like, I was at my friend's birthday party, and I was on the phone with him. My friend was right there sitting next to me. He said, that he hoped I kill myself. He was gonna kill somebody.
I think that's important to talk about because that sounds like it was verbal abuse, like the different types of abuses that it can be. Because sometimes it's hard to wean out, like if you are in this toxic situation, especially when you are super close to the situation, it's hard. That's why it's important to have your village, your friends that'll tell you like, girl, I'm not about to go for that. Or your family like to say that's not healthy. So that was like a form of verbal abuse.
And I would say, oh no, she just said that. But all my friends like, you don't need to do that anymore.
Did you leave him immediately? Did you cut it off immediately? It took you a minute to kind of see it. Because you wanted to know for sure. And that's okay, because that's how your instincts are, you know. Someone alerts you and got that red flag flying in your face, like, hey, that's not cool.
So that could be like a verbal or emotional abuse, like when someone's speaking to you in a manner that makes you scared or threatening or insulting or humiliating you. So another form of abuse could be like physical, which is when somebody actually put their hands on you. With an unwanted physical contact. Sexual abuse is like when you feel pressured or forced.
A lot of people
sexually.
do that on Snapchat.
Do what?
If you add like, me and my friend, it was this man that was texting her, and he was like,
Oh, man. She said, man. Go ahead, I'm
and
sorry.
he was acting like he was a girl on Snapchat.
That's happening.
Well, that might be more like digital because it's a lot with social media now, which I think like with maybe started with our generation, but definitely now y'all generation with social media becoming more prevalent, like sexting and texting and social media stalking, and people could be whoever they want to be online. And I know it just sounds like we complaining and just saying be safe, but for real, like people could get people's addresses and locations, and even when you put in pictures, it's certain trackings on those type of things. So you have to be careful. Like especially as a teenager, like so we talking about teen on teen situations, but when you are putting yourself on social media, you don't know who you opening yourself up to. So that's a whole nother level of making sure you're keeping yourself safe.
And that's why you got to continue to have that dialogue again with your parents. You know, it's. I mean, as scary as it is to tell them everything, but it's good to tell them everything. Because when something goes down, you want, you know, you're somewhere trapped somewhere, or someone that took you out to Westchester, you don't know where you are. Right. Like, I know my mom already knows all about this. I can call her. She's not going to be mad to come get me. First of all, ain't no parent going to never be mad to come get you. I want to say that out loud.
That's the truth.
No parent is going to be mad to come get their kids. So don't be trying to figure it out where I can just take an Uber. Because now Uber ain't even sometimes safe. You call your parent and you make sure they know where you are. Make sure you text them. Just keep in touch because it's just too much secrecy. You all have so much privacy. I mean, we had one phone in the house, and when our parents picked it up and said get off, we had to get off.
Right.
I kind of like that anymore, but now we don't know what you're doing sometimes. And not that you're always doing something bad, but just the fact that you have so much privacy on the phone, I think can be a little dangerous.
So what does it mean, like in relationship, to give consent to somebody, or what is it?
Consent is 100% permission, and you can change your mind at any point. You can be completely get ready to do something and say, "Hey, hold up, I don't want it." And he is supposed to say, "Okay," not be convincing you, "Oh, you love me,
right?
You know, we should be able to do." No, say, "Okay, we can wait." You know, I don't want to pressure you or anything, but then that boy needs to be having that conversation with a male that can teach him, even a woman, you know, to teach him to be able to say, okay, I'm hot and heavy right now, but I'm gonna be okay. I ain't gonna die. But I don't get none today, you know. But it is, and it's affirmative, you know, or it's your language, you know. Like I ask the kids, like, what does affirmative mean? And sometimes they don't even know what it means. So I give them an example. So I can say, you can say, you know, you ready? You know, you ready? We've been talking about this all week. And you say, yeah, I'm ready. You know, that's affirmative. Or she says, no, she ain't ready.
Right.
The moment her shoulders go to her ear, she's not ready. And he needs to know that language and say, you ain't ready for that.
Absolutely.
You know?
And I think that especially for males, young males, like a lot of people getting rape cases she said yes, and it's just a lot of murky things sometimes. So like really even in those situations, for them to know what consent is, if she say yes to this but say no to that, and establish those boundaries.
What she did this time don't mean you're gonna get it the next time.
Right.
Yep.
And you definitely can't get consent from somebody who's drunk or impaired.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Totally. So all that booing up, Netflixing and drinking and all that—that's not the time to say, okay, let's do this great act.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's find out if we really in love with each other or not. No, that's not the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because it can flip, because if she doesn't remember what happened and she wakes up and thinks that she's been raped, then that's gonna be the situation. That's a whole other situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, then the parents have to get involved and all that. I mean, it can be really bad. So you have to again, know yourself well enough. And I tell girls, the reason why our parents wanted us to wait before we had sex, we wanted to be your husband, and you know, we know sometimes that doesn't happen, but you only have that one thing in your memory. Mm-hmm. Because if you have all these partners, then you're trying to size up to all of that. Mm-hmm. You know, and then he's trying to size up to all of that. That's why you should only have one person in your memory. Even though we know those things don't happen. Mm-hmm. But you know, if it does happen, but just be smart about it. Right. You know, ask the right questions. Make sure he's the right one. Take your time. You don't have to, and sex doesn't have to be a part of every relationship. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing I keep saying. You do not have to have sex with everybody that you date. Mm-hmm. You know, it should not be a part of every situation. Everybody's not deserving of you.
Right. There you go.
Not deserving of you at all.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I implore you, just take your time, because people will eventually will show it. Because you don't want them to show their stripes after you done gave it up to them. Right. That's when your heart gets broken. Because we are responsible most of the time for why our heart gets broken. Because we ignore so many
all the signals, all the signs.
He's gonna be good on Friday. He was stupid on Monday, but he's gonna be cool on Friday. No, he ain't.
Mm-hmm. But see, the thing is, and once you have sex and you have that level of intimacy with somebody, then all of these other things get connected and tied to that person.
Like a soul tie.
Like a soul tie, babe.
That's right.
You
tell me, girl.
You better come through.
Yes. I love it. Yes.
Yeah, and those are difficult to break. I mean, I don't care what age you are, but when you are younger and less experienced, and less experienced, not necessarily as it relates to sex, but just less experienced for life and and relationships with people.
That's right.
It's hard. It's hard.
It's hard.
And that's why women sometimes stay in abusive situations, not because, you know, they do want to get out. They sit back, they do want to get out, but it's hard to break those ties because it's deeper than a physical thing. Because now you've made this higher connection with this person. And, you know, people look at women who may be in abusive situations like, why is she still in it? Because
they don't know their worth. Don't know your worth.
Oh yeah.
Don't know your value.
I was in a situation one time and it was toxic. And I said to myself, now this is funny because I was talking to this person, but I was talking to me.
Right.
And in the moment of kind of like going back and forth in this very heated discussion, I said, Jen, do you remember who you are? It was like I was saying it to him, but I was saying it to me. I said, Jen, do you remember who you are? Mm-hmm. And I said, what the hell am I doing? Mm-hmm. You know, it was like I snapped out of it that quick because I started talking to myself out loud, you know, in the middle of this conversation. Exactly. And it just took a turn after that. I just was like, you're better than this. Right. It's like, I mean, sometimes that's what you have to do. You might look weird to somebody doing that, but sometimes that's what you have to do. You do. It's like
minister to yourself. Mm-hmm. Minister to yourself.
So I know, like, we've kind of talked about in roundabout ways some of the red and green flags, but can you explain some of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just read some of the unhealthy red flags, okay? So trying to control you again and making decisions for you, getting jealous and accusing you of cheating, expecting you to chime in or check in with them all the time, want to know where you are and who you're with all the time. And this is just a boyfriend. This ain't even your parent. Asking all these things of you. Treating you or hurting your pet. That happens a lot.
Hurting a pet?
Hurting a pet.
Really?
You have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, they think you like your dog more than you like them.
Oh, wow.
They'll kick it, you know, things like that. Yeah. So you know they'll kick your pet, they're going to kick you.
Wow, I didn't know that was a thing.
Thing.
Learning something new.
Messing with your stuff, you know, going through your phone without your permission. calling you out your name, of course, hitting, kicking, punching. And I'm going to say choke. I'm going to say strangulation, because choking is like choking on a piece of chicken.
Yeah,
strangulation.
Girls say they like that. That's just
And I hear it all the time now. They say that they like that. That's like kind of a thing that they're doing now in a sexual situation. They're having sex.
When they get into argument.
The moment that he puts that makes them think like, he really does care.
Oh, that's the trick of the enemy.
It's a trick.
Okay, that's going.
I mean, to me, this is a learning experience. Listening tonight, and like people. Let's not say people's names, but people who going through these situations as teenagers. Like, wow.
Physically restraining you, of course, threatening you, things like that, isolating you from your family and friends. And again, not even wanting to meet them. You say, "Oh, I want you to meet my mom."
Yeah.
I'll do that later. He doesn't want to meet your family. He wants to convince you that being over there with him is so much better than you again being in your own village and being protected. So then your healthy things are, again, seeing you as an equal. You knowing how to draw your own boundaries, knowing what they are, and that's something you would be talking with your mom about. What are boundaries? What are they? What do they look like? And what are your boundaries? Because that's something I think a lot of women don't even know. I mean, you think about. If someone was to ask that of you, it would take a minute for somebody to really kind of come up with what they are, because they're not something that you think about.
Right. Yeah.
And boundaries can change based on the person and the situation.
So,
something that you might allow one of your friends to do over here, the other person ain't allowed to do. And that's okay to set different boundaries for different people.
Exactly. Again, trusting you, supporting you with your family and friends, solving problems with you, as I said earlier, discussing things calmly, not losing their temper. All those things are good things, So when someone comes to you, again, they need to not complete you, but compliment you.
It seemed like it took way too long.
Me too.
For me to get to a place where I really understood my value and my self-worth. And I'm going to tell you, when I did, my total life changed.
Exactly.
My life changed because there was things, listen, I mean, to this day, thank you, Jesus, I don't stand for it.
Right.
I'm not going to be a part of. I'm not going to allow it to happen. I'm not going to degrade or devalue myself. Like, you just grow from those moments. Like you said, some people come into your life for all of those different reasons, and you need to figure it out. But then you assess, like, what was that about? What can I take from that? What can I learn from that? And some people challenge you in a way where they make you think about what your value is. But for me, like, once I understood my value and my self-worth, man,
and it's still growing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of that. Once you open up that box, I think about when I went to college, and I've shared this with you many times. I didn't have a boyfriend in college because my high school relationship was so crazy. I was like, I don't want a boyfriend. I mean, the whole 4 years. I had my little 3 victims. But I did not want a boyfriend. And it really saved me because I was able to graduate on time. I was able to stay focused. I had a lot of my girlfriends crying, couldn't get up in the morning to go to class because their hearts were broken. Watching their boyfriends walking out somebody else's room and everything that he's being so committed to me. Ain't nobody committed on the college. Right. I just do it. Now, I bumped my head when I got home. I was dumb as a rock when I got home. But something about Central State, I was just like, I just don't want to do that.
Oh, and you was at Central?
Had a great time, party, did my work, and I graduated on time. But, again, maybe I thought I was ready when I came home. I was ready for something else. And these people had not changed a little bit. I was the one that had changed. And it didn't value that. And so, I think my marriage taught me a valuable lesson. I don't really have any regrets of it. I hated it happened to me. I don't have any regrets of it because it will never happen again.
Right. Exactly. I think that's an important piece because we're talking about teen, dating. But you don't have to date just because, just because it's available. You can get into that space where I'm learning myself. I'm having fun. I'm with my girls. We chilling. We kicking it. We cool. But I don't have to date you if I don't want to. Like, that's okay, too. And that's a boundary that you can have for yourself. even outside of just thinking about sex or anything, like if you don't want to, you ain't got to, and that's period. But I think like as far as the red flags and the green flags, I think sometimes, especially when you are learning yourself and you're in your development, like it's hard to differentiate those things because people are people. They got good characteristics and they got bad characteristics. So sometimes it's hard to say like if this person is toxic until you away from the situation. Because I feel like I found myself in a situation that was extremely toxic, but I didn't know. Like,
did you ask questions during the time though? Were you asking questions?
Yes, I definitely could say like some of the stuff that you were saying. Like I was like, oh, this don't feel right, or having certain situations, but I didn't know. Like I would just say like, oh, he crazy, right. But I didn't even. And honestly, in scheduling this podcast and talking to you, I started reflecting even more. Like, dang, I was in a domestic violence relationship, and I'm 32 years old, and I didn't even identify it as that until later. But this, I never even told my mom about the situation. Like, so this her first time gonna hear this too. But like, I was someone who was like, I know my worth. I'm not gonna let nobody treat me any kind of way. Yeah. Then I found myself excusing certain behaviors. Like, he put his hands on me? Oh, well, you know what I'm saying? And it got to a place where when I was ready to walk away from this situation, he had a key to my home, and I had a friend that was staying with me, a female friend, and we had a male friend come over and we're just hanging out. And I didn't answer my phone because I'm like, he a little crazy. So if you hear a male in the background, so I texted him back and said, hey, it's a guy over here. I didn't answer the phone, and then he was like, I'm gonna kill you and him. And his roommate was in Cincinnati. This wasn't in Cincinnati, and called me frantic. Like, he said he got my gun and he on his way to your house. You need to get whoever this is out of your house right now because he on his way. And I ended up calling his mama, like, your son gonna go to jail if he come over here. But he told me, like, well, at that time his brother was in jail for being affiliated with a murder. His dad was in jail too, and he told me, well, both of my dad and my brother in jail. I miss them anyway, so I don't care. Like, he said those things to me. So, I mean, it's nothing but the grace of God. Like, because I like really started reflecting, like, what that could have turned into. Right. So, I think me making that call to his mom led him to not come. But then I came out to my car the next day, and I had a note on my car, like, you're mine. You're not ever going anywhere.
That is red flag.
Red. I mean, it was blinking. Hello.
A lot of girls like that.
I know. Still, they think
they think they like
it. But they will eventually find out that is really like straight up crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
Because someone just can't have you as a possession, not a thing
or an object.
And when you don't, again, know your value, you don't know how to raise above it. You don't know how to have somebody measure up to it when you don't even know yourself. Right. So some of the things that you've kind of figured out later on, you just didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think with some of the red flags, something that we have to be careful of, because I did this in an abusive situation. I thought, oh, he really cares about me.
Nobody
he really loves me. Nobody has loved me like this before. Oh, he is so protective of me. Like all those red flags that I saw, that's what I would say when I would see, because it wasn't at that point physically abusive towards me, but it was still the controlling. Absolutely. It was definitely the isolating. Also the devaluing. Where I literally, and y'all may not believe it, but there was literally a point in my life where I felt I had no self-sufficiency. Like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Like, I was so used to, this person taking the control, giving up all of the control to this individual. And then I was like, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And eventually...
He was smart.
But see, there were so many things I didn't see in myself. That's why I said over the years, I learned my value and my self-worth. But it really, honestly took the intervention of a group of my male friends. My male friends sat me down. Because now the situation was getting scary and abusive. And I was talking to them about stuff. I literally was going to work, putting makeup on, covering up black ass. I swear to God. And acting like everything was okay. And my guy friend set me down. I told one of my guy friends, he told the circle of friends, they sat me down one day. had an intervention with me, and they talked about some things that had happened to some of their female friends or whatever. And they said, Geneva, you have got to get out of this situation right now. And literally that intervention made me say, hey, my life is changing today.
That's right.
Now I had to start all over. You know,
Because
it was scary, but right.
I mean, somebody knew. Because once somebody knows, it's just like, you're able to take that deep breath because you're holding on to all these secrets. Go ahead, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, that's fine. But I literally, I had to change. I had these people supporting me at this point. It was no longer a secret, and it was a good thing that they were. I was glad that it was men too. It was men because I never told my family. I just dealt with this thing on my own. But I had this support group, my guy friends, right there helping me, and they helped me move. They helped me do everything. They helped me find a place to live. Like, they helped me with everything. And they were truly, truly my friends. And we were talking about not every man that you deal with, it has to be like an intimate relationship. There was no intimate relationships with any of these men. They were my friends. They were my support. And they really helped me during a very difficult moment in my life. But from there, that's my self-confidence and self-esteem, developed. I mean, it wasn't fully there. It took a while, but
I think it is very healthy and I think even I want to say even married, I may be opposite. I think even married people, I think it's healthy for the male and the female to have friends of the opposite sex. Friends, just like what you're talking about, and when your significant other is so insecure that you're even having a conversation, and it can be about cable. Oh, Cincinnati Bell has a better cable. So now I'm gonna get Cincinnati Bell.
Right. Turning up over something that's so
that doesn't make any sense
Mm-hmm.
is a red flag. Mm-hmm. No matter how much you like them, you may have to say, well, maybe I can still like this person, but I can't be committed solely to this person because they had these 3 traits that I know that I can't live with. That means he's a terrible person. That may just be how that person's wired, and they can be wired like that all day. Do you want to wire it like that in your life?
Right.
That's wired like that over there.
Right. Exactly. Do it over there.
I mean, but that's when you say, that's not the type of person I want in my life. You want somebody that is not going to try to change you into who they want you to be, but you should always have the freedom to be who you are, to be your authentic self at all times.
Authentic. That's the key.
Yeah.
Find out what that really means. Like, look at that word. I look at words now. You taught me that. You gave me a book one time about how to build my vocabulary. So you don't even know. Give me a book how to build my vocabulary. So now every time I think of a word, I look it up and I look at the root of the word, what it really means, and then you can apply it. Because people just throwing out stuff all the time. Everybody's a rapper. They just throwing out words, don't even know what they mean. But you gotta know what they mean for you. And that's how you start setting boundaries in your life. Say, hey, I'm not putting up with none of that. And definitely be a cheerleader for other people who are in a situation. Don't be a bystander.
Right.
You may not want to get in between somebody fighting or whatever, but you may have to call the police on that time on somebody. You may have to and tell their siblings, like, hey, you may not know this is going on with your sister, but she's really in a bad situation, and then they will be able to go in. Because there's so many people keeping secrets, we know it all the time.
And I know that would be hard for like teenagers because y'all think that y'all snitching if y'all say something, but it could be a really dangerous.
And be saving somebody's
life. It could be a really dangerous situation. Like, I don't know, y'all be feeling like I'm snitching or I'm being in people's business if I say something, but sometimes like you never know. It could be like the difference between life and death. And I know we didn't talk about the statistics, but do you know like the prevalence of like what teen dating violence is?
Let me read you some statistics. I need to print some out. 1 in 3 girls in the U.S. is a victim of physical, emotional, and verbal abuse from a dating partner. 1 in 10 high school students have been purposely hit, slapped, and physically hurt by a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So while we're talking about young people, girls and women between the ages of 16 and 24 experience the highest rate of intimate partner violence, almost triple the national average.
What age group was that again?
16 to 24.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Triple.
College students are not prepared. That's the reason why I did this Miranda right as well. I want them to be prepared. And I think that was the last one I had in there. But there's so much going on. I think the parents are not, they're just taking it as, oh, they're just kidding. It's going to be okay. They really don't understand. This stuff is real. And your children are coming to school with bruises on their body. They can hide anything. They can hide anything. And you think about all the privacy that a lot of these kids have. You know, you got everything in your room, your own computer, your own phone. You got, and most of them have a door on their bedroom. So once you close that, you don't know what's going on. So, I mean, the statistics are high. And that's why I really am glad that I'm able to go into the high school. A lot of other high schools are wanting me to come in. I'm able to do like a one-time thing, an assembly situation, which is sometimes not enough, but enough to get them sparked where they're coming up to me after, like, I've been in that situation. I was just in that situation. Every time I go speak somewhere. So it's big. You know, when you think 1 in 3 people, you know, you look around your room, you have 30 kids, that's probably 10 of them, but 6 of them in there that are in an abusive relationship or something that's unhealthy. It may not be physically abusive, but it's unhealthy.
Right.
Wow.
I know. Oh,
unbelievable.
It is. I try to talk to, well, I have a program called Coaching Boys into Men where I work with athletes. At 2 of my schools. One of the schools I'm still trying to kind of break the door down. And we talk about locker room talk. We talk about reputation of having sex with all these girls. And most of the time they ain't doing half of that. But you know, again, they're talking. And really learning who they are as men. And do you want that reputation? You know, and they are the most popular guys in the school. Even if you weren't before you got on this team, make that touchdown. You're gonna be popular by Monday. They're gonna all know your name. They're gonna all be around you. And so, you know, I can see the little lights going off like that just happened to me last week. Yeah, because now you're popular. You know, and also I talk to them about how much change they can make in their school. If you stood up to the bullies, if you stood up and made sure other people weren't treated, you could change the culture of your school. They're waiting on the teachers and the principals to do. I said that's not their job. Their job is to make sure you're safe, to make sure you're here, make sure you get an education. You all have the power to change the culture of your school. So they believe it after I end up working with them. And so the good thing about that class is only 15 to 20 minutes what I talk to them about once a week. So I'll get them deep down in the rabbit hole, tell them this good story. Oh, 15 minutes! And so they're like, no. And they will go look it up. And so when I come back on Monday, they wait to talk about it. So it empowers them to say, I need to really read about it. So I had no idea that was happening. You know, athletes who are losing their livelihood over being knuckleheads over one night of wanting to have sex with somebody. You know, one of my favorite examples was even when quarantine happened. The NBA basketball went down to Disney and they were in that big dome thing, and they had all kind of rules. You can't have the girls in there, you can't do this, you can't go off campus. Of course, one of them did. Snuck the girl in, dressed her up like a boy. And you know, they can smell her coming in the door. He got caught and they kicked him out so quick they didn't even answer no questions. He's bringing his more money than he probably would ever make in his lifetime.
So he lost
all of it.
Over some
and every time they say, oh, I just bring it up on the screen, like let's just Google it and bring it up on the screen. It's just right here. And so I said, you have to think about your life. You have to start planning. So the thing that got me through college was plan your work and work your plan. That's what got me out of college. I said it to myself every day. Plan your work and work your plan. So that's our little motto that I always say every year. And I can see a change in them. I can see them stop shoving girls. I can see them stop cussing at girls because now it's like you're a man. You're a little man now. And if you want somebody to want you in their club, bring your parts up, they don't want to hear you saying nigga all the time, bitch, and all that kind of stuff all the time. They're not going to accept all of it. They're not going to want you to be a part of their organization. You can't be having that cooler talk. You're talking about women like they ain't nothing. You know, you have to respect yourself enough to not want to talk to somebody like that. And then most of them have young sisters. I said, now how would you feel? First thing you say, what's his name? I'm going up there. Right. You can't say the same thing when you cuss. Right, you doing the same thing. You're going to have some leverage in there. So, you know, it's a lot going on.
So we kind of know what what you're doing in the schools and kind of like what you're teaching the kids, do you have any suggestions on what parents need to be doing and the deposits that they need to be making in their kids, and
Yes.
maybe even conversations, like even me, like what would you say I should do, in my relationship with Naya?
First thing I would say is, of course, make sure that you are making sure your children feel safe enough to talk to you. Don't turn up every time you see something that you don't really particularly like. Even if they come out dressed kind of provocative, like, oh, you ain't wearing that. Say, come here, baby. Where you gonna go?
Mm-hmm.
How are the other people gonna be dressed? Because if it's the prom, you don't want them going there with pants and bra on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you need the whole dress on.
Right.
So when you overreact, it pulls them back. Like, I can't tell mama.
Yeah.
I definitely say meet everybody that they're hanging out with. Invite them over for dinner, for the cookout. Wow or not wow, because that person may be going through something and come over here and say, I feel so safe over here. Y'all treat me so nice. My home life ain't like that. Especially when you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. I definitely say meet them.
And not just people that they date and they friends too.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Friends,
Yeah.
and the person that they're actually and have them all over. Have all your friends if that's a situation that you can have. Don't be afraid to talk to them. Don't be afraid to ask them questions, because that's going to make that person know that she's protected.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now y'all just let them sit over in the corner. Oh, I can't remember his name, girl. He's somebody. Be able to ask questions and be okay with your parents asking questions, no matter how much it embarrasses you.
Right.
No matter how much it embarrasses you. Because I wish my mother had asked questions. She didn't she would just show me the dislike.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, but what's the reasons?
Mm-hmm.
Because they probably were really nice people, but she just did not engage. Mm-hmm. So that left me out there swinging in the wind, trying to figure it all out on my own. And I was not figuring it out on my own. I needed her guidance, not her just being mad.
Right.
Or and I think sometimes parents feel like they have to put that mean face on, and that's it. That's all I'm gonna do. See my face?
Right.
It don't prove nothing.
Right. Sure it doesn't.
It don't prove nothing.
And let me tell you, I have come a long way. I've come a long way, and would you agree, Jazz? I've come a long way
but you had to.
Yeah, I had to, because and my sister and I were just talking about this today in terms of raising kids and the culture, and the nature of kids today and things like that. And I told her, I said, I'm telling you, I'm like, Lord, please help me to be a better parent and a better mom to my kids. Yeah. And that means, if I'm saying that, then that means I got to make some change.
That's right.
I have to, I told my sister too, like, I have to meet Naya where she's at. Because Naya and Jasmine and Adrian, like, they're different people. And so I have to understand who she is, and I have to listen, and not be so quick to, go off or sometimes even like, no, you can't. Sometimes, okay, listen, let me hear what she has to say. I do have some fast no's on some
yes,
things.
Oh, honey, I'm a definitely no on that too. Right. No one's going to keep out anymore.
But I think that's like,
I want to grow.
I think that's like necessary, and kudos to you for being able to adapt to not only your kids' needs, but like some of the conversations that we've had as I've gotten older. Yeah. Like, I think have helped you. Like, I need to parent a little bit differently because of some of the barriers that I had. Like, we weren't close until I got older, and but now I see my sister and my brother being able to talk in a way that I didn't. And I'm like, we have to break these generational things because we expect our kids to know, but nobody teaching them. We look at these little girls and be like, oh, are they doing this? Are they fast? But like, we're judging, but we're not helping them. We're not leading them. Like, you look at the little boys, they don't got, okay, but did you go have a conversation with this little boy? So I feel like this is the part that's missing. We can't assume that our kids are going to know. They didn't know just like we didn't know, like,
Exactly. You got 3 generations sitting right here, and she was a young parent. And she didn't know. And it's so good that you get to see her. See, if she wasn't here, you wouldn't even probably recognize it. You wouldn't know. It wouldn't even be happening. So you got an actual opportunity to see her do it differently and enjoy her at the stage with you being a mom. That is amazing.
That is, girl.
That's amazing.
But she's helped me along the way, because she and I've had some difficult conversations in terms of just really coming to terms with some stuff and her being able to share her truth with me, you know, me having to sit back as a parent and say, okay, babe, like, I understand. Yeah, there's some things I could have done better, but just the fact that we were able to have those conversations, and for me to even grow from that and even take some of her suggestions and say, okay, yeah, I need to do a better job with this. Because some of the things, because some of the things I was still doing today, you know, and some of the things I still am doing, and I probably will always be that overprotective parent.
Right.
But,
that's a good thing.
I mean, but at the same time, I want to allow, you know, my kids to be who they are, and I want them to be safe in relationships, and I want them to be in healthy relationships. So,
and that's dating and friendships.
That's right.
You know, because you can have some unhealthy friends. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just as worse as being in an abusive relationship as a girlfriend or boyfriend. Mm-hmm. So those boundaries apply on both sides.
One thing that really kind of gets me. Yeah, and I know there's a lot of imagery out there, all of these videos and all of this stuff that kids see today, and they think it's normal. Like, that's normal. That's just how it's supposed to be. And, like, I look at some of that stuff and I'm like, the only way I know how to say this is that's adult stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that's not kid stuff.
Exactly.
But they put it in videos, so kids, or they put it in songs, and kids think that, I guess, it's okay. And it just seems like, to me, to some degree, in terms of what kids are dealing with as it relates to sex and relationships, are so much different. It's like totally different from what I witnessed
because
growing up in my
life. We had
life.
to have a little bit of imagination, and our imagination may have been real pure.
Right,
What do you mean by that flower?
Right.
And you don't mean that flower.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I think with social media too, like their stuff is just way more accessible than it was before. So like kids are getting information way before they can even have the maturity to even process stuff. So I mean, but I feel like I was sheltered, like being in private school, and you know, it was like a lot of stuff was culture shock. I think they're sheltered too, but they get a lot more because of the world. Yeah. You know, so I think that's why still having some like parental controls and having those, she hated, but we have moments you gotta put your phone up. Exactly. Like, and we're gonna sit down and we're gonna engage. And I notice a difference in Naya when those things happen. She's nicer. Mm-hmm. She talk more, like, cause you know when they got that distraction.
I don't like talking.
You like talking with us,
no girl. Like talking.
Yeah.
I don't really like talking. I just stay in my room.
Well, see, and those are the behaviors that we've been changing.
And some of the stuff that you gotta, as a parent, be intentional about doing, because your kids aren't always gonna volunteer information. Sometimes you gotta pry it out of them. Like, how was your day? She'd be like, good. Mm-hmm. Okay, like, well, what happened? What did you learn? You know, you gotta pull it out of them sometimes. And I think like those things, like to have these conversations, sometimes you have to facilitate those things. Like, it might not always come naturally. You have to kind of push for some of those things, especially with teenagers.
And you can't just let your kids be behind them doors on them devices. Right. I learned that the hard way. Like, because even with her now, I'm like, and I have to keep reminding her, don't close your door until it's time to go to bed. That's the rule in the house now. And then, you know, I say this, maybe she don't think it's exactly this way, but I force her to spend time with me. You know,
yeah, because I don't know.
I'm like, come on, we gonna watch a movie. You pick the movie.
That's good.
You know, and I do go through her phone. I listen. She knows I do. Like, I don't try to hide it. But the thing is, I do that because, you know, I want to make sure she's protected. I want to make sure she's safe. That's in addition to me, you know, having a conversation with her.
A true active parent.
Mm-hmm.
And more need to do that. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not saying anything negative for those who don't know how, because some people don't know how to go through their child's phone. They don't have, they're not techie like that, you know. But if you know somebody else that in your family that is, you go get them and say, show me what you see. You know, you can't just be ignorant to everything, you know. Yeah.
And I have parental control set up on her phone too, so I can control Snap. I can control every app on her phone. I can control FaceTime, messages. I can control the phone, and I do when I need to. You know, I do control the phone when I need to, because, you know, we have to protect our kids. We do. I mean, I went from a parent who had
my little
OCD
naivete.
and didn't want my kids stepping on grass. So, you know, to
The fact
now,
that that's a true story is sad.
yeah, it is a true story. But I'm just saying, like, that's how over the top I know I can be. And so I just try to really manage it to allow her to be who she is and to not put them in my bubble, but to still have some level of
because she's got
control
plenty
and
of time
protection.
for a lot of this stuff they wanting children to see right now. You got plenty of time.
Yeah.
It's like you're seeing that now. What's going to get you excited when you really
Right.
become an adult?
Right.
I mean, they're going to be like in the basement with an apple in their mouth.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's like what? So I think it is. I think you do have to pull back sometimes. And I'm really proud of you, Geneva. I really am. I mean, you're very, very lucky. Because there are some parents that are not doing any of those things, and that's why you see some of your probably friends or whatever that have so much freedom and they're doing so many things. Your eyes are probably wide open, like my mom would never let me do that, and that's exactly what you want to be saying. My mom would never let me do something like that. That's the best, answer. That I can't do nothing like that. That's right. You already know that you'd have something like that, somebody to answer to. Those kids probably don't have anybody to answer to. And they're going to look back on their lives and they're going to wish they did. They're going to wish somebody had pulled them back and say, "Oh," because you don't want to have all that trauma. That's trauma in your life, in your head. I had to see that. I had to witness somebody being beat up. I had to witness myself even being mistreated because no one stepped in to protect me. So take it all in. Take it all in.
So Naya, do you feel like this information is valuable for like you and people your age?
Yeah.
So if you are someone you know is experiencing teen violence, you can contact the National Teen Dating Abuse Hotline at 866-331-9474. Or you can, if you're in the Cincinnati area, YWCA has a domestic violence hotline as well. That's 1-800-540-4764. And that's for Hamilton County, correct? Okay. So can you tell them where they can find you?
Actually, just my email right now. I don't have a website. I'm building my website, and it's going to be around this Miranda Rights that I will read at the end of this. But my email is Melonee, MELONEE, the number 1 at zoomtown.com. If they have any questions, or also want to get some of the Miranda Rights and our red flags and green flag cards, I will be able to send that to them. So, do you mind if I read it?
Go ahead.
This is going to be good for you, okay? All right. So, Miranda Rights, you have the right to put yourself first. You have the right to love yourself. You have the right to be self-aware. You have the right to be heard. You have the right to change your mind. You have the right to ask questions. You have the right to be safe in your relationships. You have the right to know your value. You have the right to speak up for yourself. You have the right not to remain silent when you know something is wrong. You have the right to have deal breakers in your relationship. You have the right to take your relationship at your own pace. You have a right to be a boss. You have a right to recognize that every relationship is not for you. You have the right to say no and not feel guilty about it. You have the right to keep your promises to yourself. You have the right to spend time with yourself and by yourself. You have the right to have caring friends. You have the right to ask for help. You have the right to have goals and plans for your future. Right to give consent and be in your right mind to give consent. And you have the right to know your worth.
That's great.
And I also want to say these are some go-to songs that I put on every day to pump myself up. Mary J. Blige's song called "Work It." I don't have the rights to these songs. To Mary J. Blige, "Work That," or "You Can't Hold a Good Woman Down." Jill Scott has a wonderful song called "Rolling Hills." I mean, it's the bomb. Lauryn Hill, "Doo Wop." Common's "Delight," and Queen Latifah, "Unity," UNITY. Because the first thing's like, "Who you calling a bitch?"
Right.
In, like, "Hey, hold up." And so I play these songs often, and I play them in the classroom, and then I ask other kids to bring in their pump up song, and it makes them think. Like, what would pump me up in the morning that get me going, that I can handle the day? So, but yeah,
that's good. That is. I'm gonna have to play back some of those songs.
Yes, "Rolling Hills." Play "Rolling Hills" by Jill Scott. Man,
I'm gonna look that one
it
up.
is the bomb. But thank you for having me. I appreciate
Thank you for
this.
coming.
Yes.
And again, if you guys are interested in purchasing these Miranda Rights cards, which is great, not only for yourself, but for your kids, maybe for if you are any organization or schools that you might work for, you can contact her again at Melonee1@zoomtown.com. That's MELONEE1@zoomtown.com. All right. Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you.